Hi guys, welcome to Ask Jessie. This week's question is from Karina. Hey Jessie, I support body positivity and body acceptance, but what about women who are just too fat? I want to say that all bodies are beautiful, but honestly some bodies just really gross me out. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, this is a really important one because we live in a world with a fat bias, meaning that at every level, from doctors and researchers all the way down to your average Joe, we have a bias against fat. We believe that fat is bad, unhealthy, dangerous, disgusting, a problem, unnatural, you name it. And none of that is really true. So even if it was true, it's really none of your business. And so we come up against this thing on the internet of concern trolling. Concern trolling being someone who writes, on a fat woman's page where she's wearing a bikini and she's like, I finally learned to love myself. Isn't this great? And some concern troll will come and be like, well, you should be trying to lose weight. Think of your health. So it's shaming disguised as being concerned. It's concern trolling. And it's not okay. It's 100% under absolutely no circumstances okay. Because again, number one, it's not true that being fat is necessarily unhealthy. And number two, it's none of your damn business. Now, the thing about this is that every single body deserves to be loved, accepted, and validated and valued. Every single body. And if you're going to tell me that only bodies who are healthy deserve to be loved, accepted, valued, and validated, then we've got a real problem. But that's what people are doing when they concern troll. They're acting as though only a certain kind of body, a healthy body, is worthy of being loved and accepted and valued. It's not true. It's not okay. It's not true. Don't do it. But that's where people are actually going out and saying something. So what about when you just kind of hang back and you're like, oh, that's yucky. I don't like that. That is still the same bias. Maybe you're not concern trolling, but you're still feeling that same exact bias against a different type of body. And it comes from this fat bias that has been passed down to you by your entire society. So it makes sense that you feel that way, but it might not be your fault that you think that or that you have like a disgust reaction to a fat person, but it is absolutely your responsibility. So maybe not your fault, definitely your responsibility. If that's what you're coming up against is like, ugh, that's your responsibility to deal with, because it shows me immediately that there is a bias deeply ingrained in there that needs to be examined and dismantled. Fat people have been marginalized, and we don't even really think about it because so many people have the same exact bias that you have, but it's not inherently unhealthy to have fat on your body. It's just not. And even the studies that people are doing to prove otherwise, like linking it to mortality and everything, all of those studies are done by people with a fat bias. So if you do a little bit of education around this, you'll start to see that a lot of it is prejudice. It's just prejudice. That's all it is. So if if you're noticing this coming up for yourself, other than just challenging your thoughts and going, that's interesting, I wonder what's going on there, and dismantling it for yourself that way, the biggest piece of advice I can give anybody is exposure. Expose yourself to people of any kind of body type that you have any kind of prejudice about. Because exposure to different types of bodies is going to help you come up against that feeling over and over and over again so that you can do your work, your challenging and dismantling, but also because exposure starts to humanize these people who have been conveniently otherized for you. So let's say that you find fat people disgusting. Well, you then find a certain kind of people based on their weight not valuable, not acceptable, not beautiful. Like you've really otherized them from you. You're like, I'm healthy and I value these things, but not them. They're different. So by otherizing someone, it becomes really easy to judge them for anything and be disgusted by them and be angry at them and be outraged. Like, how dare you? You're, a scourge on our medical system. But if you start to humanize these people by exposing yourself to them, you'll see that, A, not all of them are whatever judgments you think, lazy maybe, slovenly or whatever, weak willpower. Those are the things that we think of when we're otherizing a particular type of body like that. However, if you start to humanize them by getting exposure, you'll start to break them down in a different way in your head. And all of a sudden that ugh feeling, that disgust reaction that you're talking about will go away. It will fade away. And this applies, by the way, to absolutely anybody that you have a prejudice against or a bias against. Anybody. And that means different religions, different races, different disabilities maybe, if that grosses you out or freaks you out. Fill your news feed, fill your social media feed with people with disabilities. And same with gender identity. This is a perfect example, is someone recently tried to argue with me that transgender people are, that they're unnatural and it's a bad situation. Basically, they're like, I don't like trans people because they're scary. They're gross looking and it scares me. And I was like, well, yeah, because it's new. Because we don't have any shit in our brains yet for trans people. It's new. It's a new thing. We just invented it. We just finally got science up to speed so that we could finally start representing or allowing people to represent on the outside what they feel like on the inside. And so it is a new thing, and your brain's like, ooh, that's new. I don't know what that is. That's new. A man with a woman's body, or like a woman with a man's face, or whatever. Your brain goes, bleh, I don't know what that is. So, and that's fine. That's fine because that's normal. That's what our brains were supposed to do. But it's not fine to keep that. It's not fine to make decisions based on that. It's not fine to judge other people based on that. Absolutely not. So if you're finding yourself coming up against that bias against any kind of people, a certain race would be a great example too right now. It's topical. If you're finding yourself being like, ooh, I just think black people are like, dangerous. Fill your feed with black people, because that is what you need right now. Go meet 1,000 black people. Challenge yourself to talk to more black people. If it's trans people, fill it with trans people. Go find trans people to talk to. And if it's fat people, same thing applies. Anybody that you're experiencing a bias against, that you're experiencing prejudice against, or that you're noticing you're having this like reaction to, check yourself, go, I'm doing this. I'm having this reaction. And that is maybe not my fault, but it is my responsibility. So you don't need to feel shame about it. You just need to go take action against it. And then expose yourself to that kind of person or that kind of body or race or ethnicity or, religion or whatever, as much as you possibly can, and start to humanize these people so that they're not just some othered thing that has nothing to do with you, that you feel safe in your little bubble, totally rejecting and judging and making up, judgment calls about, like that they're lazy, for example, or that they're scary or dangerous or gross or anything. All of that can only exist for you because you have otherized them. So expose yourself, blast yourself with it. And if it makes you uncomfortable, if you're like, I don't want my Instagram feed to be filled with people who are scary, then notice that. Notice how far you're willing to go or not go to humanize a type of person who you have been marginalizing, personally marginalizing in your own head. Because I think it's really important to be honest about that kind of stuff, where you're not willing to keep going, where you're not willing to humanize somebody. You better at least notice that you're not willing to humanize them and own that. And if you're still stuck in the place of like, no, it's not that I'm not marginalizing them, they're just unhealthy, I'm worried about them, check yourself there too, because that is concern trolling. That is where you believe that not only are your biases, which have been handed to you from our culture, are they accurate? That's what you believe. But also you believe it's your damn right to talk about what someone else should do with their body. If someone else wanted to be purposefully unhealthy, that's still not your business. But to make the judgment that anyone who's fat is unhealthy is completely insane and unacceptable. So making snap judgments based on someone's body in any way, or on their appearance in any way, or on the way they dress in any way, is not okay. But when you notice yourself doing it, this is where you get to be active. And the best tool that I know of is to expose yourself, so that you are humanizing these people who you were unable to humanize back when you were in your little bubble and you're like, that's new, it's bad. You won't be able to do that once you start experiencing them as people and exposing yourself to them over and over and over, so that your brain gets to go, oh, it's just like it's like a new category of gender, whatever, it's fine. Who cares? As opposed to freaking out. So I hope that helps. This is one of the things I give so many of my clients, is to expose themselves to different types of bodies. And that includes like really fit bodies. Like if you look at the Olympic athletes, there are so many kinds of fit bodies. We think of like gym bodies as the fitness body. Hell no. Go look at an Olympic lifter, a gold medalist Olympic lifter, and you'll see someone who is incredibly fit, incredibly strong, and then compare that to a little gymnast, and then compare that to a marathon runner, and all these bodies are good, and all these bodies are healthy, and there is no reason for us to be making judgments about one kind of body being okay and another not being okay based on health. It's also not okay to be making the assumption that some bodies are valuable or worthy of love and others are not, because that's just simply not true. And if you believe that's true, I would like to hear from you in the comments, because we should have a discussion, and maybe I'll make another video in response. So, as always, you can send me questions for my Ask Jessie Neeland video series at my website, jessieneeland.com, on my contact page, or you can, that's it.